Hello, my name is Robin Gingerich, and I'm joining you today from Klaipėda, Lithuania at LCC International University. I'd like to speak a little bit today about differentiation in the university classroom. In Christ, we are all uniquely gifted, and our students are too. And that, I think, is the passion that I have for teaching, is recognizing and enjoying the differentness of the students. And that also, because there are so many different students and so many different uniquenesses, in their personalities, in their characters, and their gifts, it does make teaching a little bit tricky sometimes. Differentiation is when teachers proactively plan varied approaches so that all the students will be able to learn as much as they can, as efficiently as possible. Carolyn Tomlinson is the guru of differentiation. I could quote her forever. She really has done most of her work in elementary and secondary education. And so I was interested in what differentiation might offer to university instruction. And I can hardly talk about differentiation without showing this little clip here, where all three young men can see the baseball game if we help them differently. And this is the difference between equality and equity. And we certainly want to give our students equity so that everyone can see and join in on the fun. In elementary and secondary classrooms, differentiation is a pedagogical tool that is considered best practices. It's something that teachers do almost all the time to help their students achieve the goals and the learning outcomes of the courses. However, in secondary education, differentiation is challenging. There's content-heavy courses, there are large classes, we are probably less familiar with our students simply because we meet with them less often. There's relatively less formal assessment in higher education, and one of the reasons is because the faculty focus on research and don't really have time to craft lessons. The professors are maybe not even familiar with the differentiation techniques that they could use. And there, I think, is also this underlying idea that 17 to 24-year-olds are just expected to know how to learn, no matter how the material is presented. But I believe that adults bring each of their uniquenesses to the classroom, and we as university instructors can also recognize that. When Tomlinson describes differentiation in students' uniquenesses, we talk primarily about learner profiles, interest, and readiness, and the differences our students have in those categories. As English language teachers, we are super aware of first languages, culture, and multiple intelligences. We also understand that motivation and interest will change a student's engagement in the course. In universities, it might be the difference between a required course and an elective course. And then there's their readiness. Their prior understanding of the topic might vary when they come into the classroom at the first of the semester. There's also a level of reading comprehension that's acquired and that is required for university instruction, and also writing skills for the tasks that we give out. So these three types of differences really help us to consider how our students are unique. I looked into a bit of a literature review of differentiation, and I'm not done yet. So this is just an initial literature review of what I've seen so far. But Ernst and Ernst is oftentimes quoted in the discourse on differentiation. In a political science course, the instructors differentiated greatly by designing three groups of students based on their relative readiness for the course and offered different levels of task difficulty. They recognize that adult students are concerned about fairness, but they also recognize the positive engagement that this provided for their students. Here's a reference on Tomlinson. Again, I could reference her many, many times. In a teacher education course, different options for tasks and how students learn were offered, and they were very clear, yes, we understand adults learn quite uniquely. Here's a study that was done in a required calculus class where they utilized peer tutoring as the type of differentiation skill that had a positive impact on motivation. Here's another course in a teacher education course, and this course had a real variety of students from master's degrees to BA degrees, And the author's reflections on the differentiation tools were very, very positive. This one was interesting because it was a required math course for first-year students, and the authors, multiple authors, created a bank of 1,500 different tasks based on their skill level, and really focused on the student autonomy, giving them choice in the tasks that they did. Jackson and Evans, also a teacher education course where the teachers modeled for their elementary education majors differentiation using choice boards. Turner and Solis really just asked instructors in secondary, in higher education, what about differentiation? Do you think it would work? These were instructors of large lecture courses, and they noted both the challenges and the positiveness, the possible positiveness, but mostly the challenges. Don't you love it when you find a literature review of a literature review? Here was a literature review of 19 articles about differentiation in higher education. The most common modifications were made in the learning environment, the content that was offered, and the process, but not exactly differentiating the product that the students can produce. When I looked at the research methods, I noticed that many of them were faculty personal reflections. They tried it, they reflected. So they were doing action research in their class. Many of them used pre and post student surveys before and after the semester, and also students semi-structured interviews to dig deeper into the grounded theory of what are the responses by students on differentiation. Two things of note, in 2003, which seems like a long time ago, but a 3-year professional development initiative at the University of Nebraska, 3 years of teaching higher education instructors about differentiation. And they came out saying, wow, technology can really help us here. And yes, it does enhance student engagement. And then I found a very interesting website and professional development seminars based on the IRIS Center at Vanderbilt University. It's really worth taking a look at. These are some of the ideas that were common in the literature review. Early assessments of the students. So really learning to know the students early, their profiles, their interests, their readiness in the course. And then formative assessment along the way allows the instructors to adjust mid-course. So instead of following the syllabus absolutely like you wrote it in the summer, but to adjust mid-course when you realize what is happening in the course or who the students are. Flexible groupings means changing up the groups as for different assignments or different tasks, rearranging the students so that they get optimal learning with the student groups that you create. Creating appropriately challenging tasks for students is a positive. And that idea of students and teachers learning together and collaborating together in the learning to see what works for everyone. Instructors do need to be proactive in differentiation and planning ahead for what can be the possibilities to offer your students for optimal learning. But instructors also need time and materials, and that seems to be on a limited scale these days sometimes. Differentiation is not meant to be used in all higher education courses, absolutely not. The context is very important, the size of the class, the ability of the teacher to actually do it. So differentiation isn't meant for all times and all places. And there are particular challenges in higher education, notably the larger class sizes and the limited amount of time that we have with our students. This is my context. These are my students at LCC International University. They come from 50 plus different countries in all of our university. This group had probably 12 different nationalities that they represent. So they have different first languages, cultures, and educational backgrounds, and different readiness for the class. This is a required first-year course, and there are multiple sections of this course. I'm not perfect, absolutely not, but there's a few things that I try to do to differentiate in my class so that all students can learn and be engaged. Week 1, I focus primarily on finding out about my students. So I teach the course in week 1, but I also include some very, very specific things to get to know my students' profiles. An early student Google survey to let me know about their backgrounds and their attitudes towards schools. They need to create a video of introducing themselves to the class, and they also write a paragraph about a partner so I can learn more and more about the students in my class. I then have a very simple notebook. It's very small. Each page represents one student. So on that page for that student, I list the notes that I want to take on that student throughout the semester so I can remember who they are and how to help them the best that I can. There is some topic choice in the assignments that I make, and I also offer options for organization. For instance, it's some students can write a essay on the causes of the argument, others on the effect, and other students I challenge to write both cause and effect, which is much more complicated, and they're able to look at options for organization. I try to squeeze out those few minutes before class and the few minutes after class to actually visit with students and talk to them and get to know them. Also, not only personally, but academically, and also give them the quick feedback that they need on some of their assignments. I shy away from teaching grammar for a whole group class simply because their levels of grammar ability are quite different. And so I've built lessons, grammar lessons that are online, which the students complete throughout the week. The students can take as long as they want to for the lesson. The lesson includes videos, it includes website links, it includes exercises. Some students might run through it very quickly, complete the exercises, and do very well. Other students might watch the videos several times, review the exercises several times, and take a bit longer. So it differentiates what they need, how they can complete their grammar activities. I do arrange flexible groups for different activities, different days for different assignments, and different student learning outcomes. We're lucky at LCC to have a student success center that offers private tutoring. I offer it to everyone, but require it for some. On Fridays, we have a fluency activity where the students are given a very simple task, and they are to type nonstop for 10 minutes, simply to improve their English fluency. In this task, I see both the strong students and the struggling students increase in their fluency, and each one comes up stronger as the semester goes on. A couple other takeaways I'd like to share with you is that differentiation initiatives are attempts to put the uniqueness of students at the heart of the instruction. And while university students are concerned about fairness and equity, when a teacher does try to implement and describe the activities that they're doing and why they're very transparent, there becomes an atmosphere of student-teacher cooperation. They see you're working the best to help them be the best learners, and they then step up to the task of learning as well. It really requires us to stay curious and just to try some attempts, analyze the results, adjust, and try again. Differentiation promotes student engagement, and we recognize the uniqueness of each student, we keep students at the heart of the learning process. By doing this, we challenge all students to learn and grow. We ourselves, as instructors, stay curious and adjust our instruction. There's a couple of discussion questions here, and my colleague Gretchen Kettner will lead you through those. You also have at the end of my slides the references that I've mentioned in this presentation. So happy to join you today, and I hope you have a wonderful conference.